Hello, everybody. My name is Eric D. Johnson, also known as BrightShine. I live right here in the city of Memphis in the state of Tennessee in the county shit. Today's date is early Monday morning, July the 4th, 2016. Time 4:46 a.m. First, say thank you. I want to thank my support and continue encourage and support. I continue to keep myself informed right here in the city of Memphis in this tri-state area. I'll continue to further my education at Monroe College, pursuing my associate degree studying business administration, concentration marketing. And the music here in the background is African hip hop. African hip hop. And uh, me and these animal videos. And on today's video, we're going to continue to talk about African traditional religion. As you know, African traditional religion is being taught in institutions of higher learning, colleges, universities in sub-Saharan Africa. You can earn a bachelor's degree, master's degree, PhD in African traditional religion. And where sub-Saharan Africa? Well, let's get the map. Okay, here's the map. Now this is a language distribution map. But you can see sub-Saharan Africa. Now in the blue, it's the Afro-Asiatic. In the yellow, that's the Nilo-Saharan. In the dark orange color, that's the Niger Congo A. The light orange color, that's the Niger Congo B, the Bantu. But you see sub-Saharan Africa, parts of sub-Saharan Africa. Now this the other part. part of the sub-Saharan Africa. And also you see the color code over there. It tells you that the blue is the not the Afro-Asiatic, the yellow is the Nilo-Saharan, the dark orange color is the Niger Congo A, the light orange color is the Niger Congo B, the Bantu. And you see the green, Sequoia, and sand, two groups of people. And then the lavender purple color is the Austronesia on the island of Madagascar. Now you know that the Austronesians live over there in Indonesia. Some of those Indonesians left Indonesia and settled in Madagascar. And this is another language distributed. This is the Niger Congo. This is the Niger Congo map. It shows you the Niger Congo languages, the primary branch, the Volta Congo, your South Volta, your Bantu, Bantu or beside Bantu, other East Benue Congo, West Benue Congo, and your Kwai. Then your North Volta, your Kru, your Sanufo, your Gur, Volta languages, and your Adamawa, your Bunjian. Then you have your other primary branches, your Kordofan, your Mandi, your Atlantic, and your Dogon. Your Dogon is on here. See, when I copied this map off the computer, some of it, like the bottom part of it, got it kind of left out. But that's the Dogon. And watch a tiger and a python get into a fight. Tiger broke away from him. This another Niger Congo map. Another Niger Congo map. Your Atlantic group, your Wolo, your Fule, and also in the Atlantic group, there's some other groups that are considered in the Atlantic group, such as the Sierra, your Mandi, Bambari, Mandingo, Dayule, your Kru, your Gur, and they speak the Mori, and people that speak the Mori, you man, when you be looking for these languages, Masi, the Mosi, Mossi, Mosi, Masi, Mosi. And your Kwai, Bali, Akan, and Iwi. and your Quay, the Quay Bali, the King, the Iwi, your Dogon, your Ajoy, your anime with your Bungie, that's Jibaye, Banda, and Zandi, your Quarterfania, your non-Bantor, Yaruba, Igbo, your Bantor, Fang, Tiki, your Gale, Mungo, and Kundu, Congo, Choki, Lube, Luganda, Rwanda, Rundi, Sukume, Kikuyu, and your Bantu, Swahili, Mekuwe, Inyanje, Bembe, Shone, Tisange, Northern Soto, your Zulu, your Southern Soto, Kosa, Tiswane, and Dange, and Bundu. Now there are many other Niger Congo languages, as you know, that may not be listed on this language distribution map, but there are many other that are Niger Congo, such as Masi, Mosi. Oh yeah, it's the King Cobra versus the Anaconda. The King Cobra eat the Anaconda. And oh yeah, no, on today's video, uh, we've been talking about ilanguages.org and learn101.org, and you know there are some Niger Congo languages that are on ilanguages.org and on learn101.org, and one of those languages is coastal. So that's a good thing. That'll help us with our coastal, because it's on ilanguages.org and on learn101.org. We're gonna get to our reading right now. King Cobra ate the anaconda. Let's get to our reading. going to be reading from today. We're going to be reading from the book titled West African Traditional Religion, written by Dr. Joseph Omaseda Ewelelu and Dr. P. Adelumo Dopemu. And we're in chapter 1. We're still in chapter 1. We're going to be reading today, starting on the wrong nomenclature for the people's religion. West African traditional religion has been mishandled by many foreign investigators. There are those who base their study of the religion on mere hearsay. In other words, they did not set eyes on the people about whom they claim to have known a great deal and on whom they wrote volumes. Some other investigators who really visited the West African people to undertake a study of their religion came with preconceived ideas, in consequence of which they were not able to see the facts as they ought to be. They came not to study the real and scientific sense of the word, but to verify such information as they had read in books or heard from travelers. European missionaries, explorers, and travelers, some were prevented from the real understanding of the phenomena they studied because of their lack of understanding of the local languages. As a result, local idioms eluded them and they could not interpret certain phenomena correctly. Furthermore, some investigators were not prepared to learn from those they considered to be inferior to them. They came to compare their own religion with the religion of the West African peoples. They went back with shallow ideas and imperfect understanding of the religion, with the result that they only took appearance for reality. This procedure was biased from the beginning, and since they could not find many things in the religion that resembled their own magnificent temples, reading scripture, ministers of religion of their own caliber, they concluded rather erroneously that West African religion was not a religion. However, we must be grateful to the earlier writers for the wealth of information they offer us as regards African beliefs and practice. As we have pointed out, Africans themselves did not write anything down about their religion, and much of what we know today about their system of thought came down to us through the arduous task of the earlier writers. We have limitations in their writings, basically in the realm of interpretation. Their interpretation of African beliefs and practices suffered because such were interpreted in their own conception and in the light of their own system of thought. Although certain Western scholars did not believe that the so-called primitive peoples of West Africa could have a concept of God, yet there were those who could not deny the fact that West African peoples are capable of receiving and responding to the revelation of God, which is a universal phenomenon. These scholars believe that West African peoples at least have some faint idea or knowledge of God. Then came the question, could the God of West African imagination be the same God as known in the Western world? The answer to this question leads conclusively to the various errors of terminology or mistaken identity or obnoxious labels to which the foreign investigators have always treated themselves. In other words, in order to distinguish between the West African religion and their own religion, foreign investigators have coined certain unpleasant labels and terms to describe the people's religion. Here, we shall briefly discuss some of such labels. A. The high gods of the primitive peoples. This is a term that has been used by the Westerners to show that God as conceived by the West African peoples cannot be the same as the supreme being of the Bible. He should be a God that is peculiar to the West African peoples themselves. Not only that, such a God should be a high God of each primitive people. Thus, according to this way of thinking, there will be many high gods of the primitive peoples. In other words, the world over has been vested with so many supreme gods. We have the Christian God, Muslim God, the Western God, the African God, or the primitive God. It is true that certain phenomena in West Africa lead the foreign investigators to adopt this term. For example, in certain areas, there are notions that God is very far away and that he resides in the sky, heaven. For example, the name of God among the Mindi of Sierra Leone in Giwo suggests that God is very far away and that he resides in the sky heaven. And the Nupe of Nigeria also saying that so-called God is far away. But if these investigators have been scientific and patient enough in their studies, they should have known that there is more in such phenomena than meet the eye. The Nupe who saying that God is far away do not forget to indicate almost immediately that God is in front, he is in the back. This shows that although God is high up or transcendent, he is at the same time present always and everywhere, ever acting and active in the same way. In the same way, the Mindi have a tradition in which in Giwo, God gave the instruction that people should always call on him to avenge a wrong done them. And so when a person is wrong, he offers a file and says, God, come down. I give you your file. This has become a swear today. And people on hearing this word apologize quickly for a wrong they have done somebody instead of allowing God to come down to kill the file. The point here is that if the Mindi had regarded God as permanently high and not imminent, the people could not have thought of invoking him whenever they need his help. For our purpose, we state with conviction that there are no high gods anywhere in West Africa and in the world at large. This notion is as a result of ignorance, prejudice, or racial pride, calculated to find a distinction between the thinking or reasoning of the people of the Western world and the people of less developed areas of the world. It is a delusive academic or intellectual creation that exists rather prejudicially in the minds of those scholars that created it. In actual fact, West African people know that there is only one God of the whole universe. They have of themselves found or discovered God. They believe that it is this God that manifests himself to the different peoples and races of the world. The fact of divine self-revelation shows conclusively that there is no race or color that is not capable of having a concept of God, though the response to such divine self-disclosure varies from locality to locality. And this may also depend on the intellectual as well as the spiritual advancement, spiritual advancement of the people that is responding to divine self-unfolding. We conclude, therefore, that there is no justification in regarding God in West African belief as a high God. The people believe that God is both transcendent and immanent. B, the withdrawn God. This is another term. The withdrawn God. This is another term used to distinguish between God and West African belief, and God is conceived by the Westerners. By implication, those who use the term or believe in it think that God is not totally unknown to the West Africans, but this God known to them is a due esconditus. God that has withdrawn totally from the world, have no interference with the affairs of the world. Such a God is so remote that people do not fear him nor worship him. Instead, they reserve his worship, sacrifice, fear, and honor for such beings that have active affairs in their lives. As before, we admit that the appearance of things in West Africa has lent some support to this fallacy. In many West African localities, we have the myth indicating that once upon a time the sky heaven was very close to the earth, but at a point in time, something terrible happened, and the sky heaven removed itself far away from the earth. According to the Yoruba version of the story, it was possible for men to touch the sky heaven, but a man with a dirty hand touched it and saw the face of heaven. God became angry and removed the sky heaven far away beyond the reach of man. But here again comes in the era of interpretation. The myth does not say that in the process of the sky heaven moving away, God himself withdrew from the affairs of the universe. Whether the sky heaven is close by or far away means nothing to the real nature of the divine Lord of heaven. His character and nature remain the same yesterday, today, and forever. We can thus see that the notion of a withdrawn God is an academic invention perpetuated by the obstinacy and dishonesty of those who will refuse to learn impenitence that the living God shows no discrimination or partiality in his universal self-disclosure. The fact that God cannot be perfectly known is not to be. It's not to be blamed on the West African people. It is a universally significant fact that God, who is a do absconditus, is also a do revelatus. God, who is hidden, is also God who is revealed. The imperfect knowledge of the nature and character of God is a result of the limitation of the human king throughout West Africa. The emphasis on the fact that the ever-living God is omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. He is transcendent at the same time immanent. The newt sings with certainty and clarity of mind that God is far away. God is in front, he is in the back. This shows that although he is transcendent, he is at the same time all-knowing and all-seeing. This is further demonstrated by the Yoruba saying that God is Emerald, Oluwan, Okan. He who sees both the inside and outside of man is the discerner of hearts. We conclude then that God in West African belief is not a withdrawn God, but that he is the God who takes an active part in the affairs and running of the universe. He is the only one God of the whole universe. We're going to stop right there. We continue to read from chapter 1. And we just got to read the wrong nomenclature for the people's religion. We read from the book titled West African Traditional Religion, written by Dr. Joseph Omasede Ebalelu and Dr. P. Adalumo Dupemu. We're going to continue our reading from the book titled African Traditional Religion, a definition written by Dr. E. Aloja Adobu. We continue to read from chapter 4, the nature of African traditional religion. Heathenism. M.I. Boaz said that pagan must be distinguished from the common usage, which makes it synonymous with heathen. For heathen, taken literally, also means rude, uncultivated. Here Boaz has failed to see the fundamental correlation between the two words. Paganus, as we have said, means a rustic, a country dweller, one who is outside the circle of enlightenment, a yoked. Heathen, in fact, came into being as an analogy of paganus. It is a word of Germanic root. The suffix en has the same meaning as the en in wooden, and the heath originally was the wasteland removed from the outskirts of the town, where outlaws, vagabonds, and braggers had their abode. Heathen means a dweller on the heath. Thus, the heathen is primarily one who belongs to or has the habit of or has the forbidden quality or characteristic of heath dwellers. Heathenism means the habit or the characteristic or the disposition of heath dwellers. The concise Oxford Dictionary, however, defines heathen as one who is neither Christian, Jewish, nor Mohammedan, unenlightened person. Like the Pocket Oxford Dictionary, it makes pagan and heathen synonymous. Disagreement about their being synonymous is true to their basic meanings and connotation. But here again, we have to question how a purely sociological term of social distinction became transferred entirely to a religious context. James Hastings, a dictionary of the Bible, gives a prominent heading to the word heathen, but does not discuss the word as such. Rather, it takes for granted that the authorized version of the Bible has rightly translated the Hebrew word goyim with the word heathen and proceeds to discuss the former. The Revised Standard Version returns to the original meaning of goyim when it translates it nations. Both the Authorized Version and the Revised Standard Version retain the word Gentile, following the original Greek or Latin, which means simply race or descent, as a translation of the Greek ethnic, which is of exactly the same meaning and purpose as goyim. Is this because the word nations, which without qualification will include all mankind, may cause an embarrassing confession for those who want goyim or ethni to retain its derogatory nuance as a mark of discrimination between the rest of mankind and the exclusive races. The New English Bible makes matters worse still by deliberately taking a spiritual step backwards in translating ethne in Matthew 6:32, for example, as heathen. Heathen, like the Hebrew goyim or the Greek ethne or barbarous, is a word coined specifically by races who look down from an Olympian height of superiority upon other races. With the Hebrews, it was from a height of spiritual pride. With the Greeks and Romans, from the height of cultural arrogance. Liddell and Scott define barbarous as barbarous, not Greek, foreign, and go on to comment as follows. Plato divides mankind into barbarians and Hellenes, as the Hebrew gave the name of Gentiles to all but themselves. From the Augustan age, The term was applied by the Romans to all nations except themselves and the Greeks, but the Greeks still affected to look upon the Romans as barbarians. It is needless to say, after all that has been discussed so far, that with regard to African traditional religion, the name heathenism is most unsuitable and is, in fact, a very obnoxious misnomer. It has nothing to do with religion. Basically, it is of all opprobrious labels the most opprobrious and is culpable inexcusably. Idolatry. G. This term is based on the recognition of a certain tendency in human nature as well as on an understanding born of prejudice. There is a sense, therefore, in which it is justifiable when used in the context of religion, and a sense in which it could be unfair. When, however, it is used to cover all that is religion in any part of the world, there is invariably no excuse apart from gross prejudice for it. Idol is from the Greek idolon. The history of the word is rather complex. The following occurs in L.B. Taylor's primitive culture. Now, one doctrine which there comes into view is especially associated with the name of Democritus, the philosopher of Abdera in the 5th century BC, when Democritus propounded the great problem of metaphysics. How do we perceive external things? He put forth in answer to the question a theory of thought. He explained the fact of perception by declaring that things are always throwing off images of themselves, which images, assimilating to themselves the surrounding air, enter a recipient soul and are thus perceived. Idule seems to have come eventually to represent the intermediate region between sure non-existence and full reality, an image copied from the real thing, a shadow thrown by real existence, a world imaging the real world of forms. Idolon bears the dictionary meaning of a shape, image, or phantom, an image in the wind, in the mind, idea, specter, or phantom, an image in the mind, idea, a vision, a fancy, and from these it developed into a portrait, especially of a god, and later still, false god, following a philosophical bias that idole may connote a world of false judgment. In logic, it connotes first the form of an idea, the formation of an idea in the mind, and later false mental conception. Thus, Idolon seems to have been tossed about heaven, the representation or shadow of that which is fully real, and that which is not real, or that which, if real at all, is real only as a creation of the human mind. The Encyclopedia of Religion and Ethics has a useful, though occasionally errant, introduction in the subject under the heading of Images and Idols. Its discussion, especially under the subheadings of purely representative images and idols, makes an illuminating contribution to one understanding of the topic. It defines images as figurative representation of beings and objects for a utilitarian or sentimental purpose. This kind of representation implies not only man that man reasons about his ocular impression, but also that he claims the power of exteriorizing them accurately and even of reproducing them after they have disappeared from his vision. Under purely representative images, it lists drawn, carved, sculptured, or painted images of a purely commemorative, instructive, or edifying nature. The image may be realistic, but interpreted in such a way that it becomes a pure symbol. Among Christian images, the lamb and the dove. Every great historical religion except Judaism and Islam has attempted to express its legends and myths in images. These representations may have a commemorative or explanatory intervention, but we must remember that certain religions use them especially for the purpose of education and edification. No religion can rival Christianity in the multiplicity of its images. The desire to be permanently in touch with venerated objects led man to set up his own image in place where everything evoked the memory of his divine patrons. The two aims of having the gods near oneself and being near them very frequently, combined by placing religious images on objects of everyday use, jewels, weapons, and tools and coins, idols. The encyclopedia defined as a fetish representing the supposed form of the spirit dwelling inside it. There is an emphasis that idolatry is neither a general nor a primitive fact. Idolatry is but a step in religious evolution and even represents a comparative advance. From the time of its first appearance onwards, man appeals to art to aid him in giving material shape to his religious ideas. Whatever opinion one may have of the origins of religion, it must be admitted that at a certain period, man began to experience the zeal for representing in concrete and personal form the mysterious forces which he conceived of as being, on the one hand, embodied in certain natural or artificial objects, and on the other, situated at the very source of the phenomenon of nature. The trouble about most approaches to subject as delicate as this is that people tend to employ words in current use without regard to their basic meanings. J.B. Pratt, for example, writes on the assumption that any religion which makes use of visual material objects in its culture is idolatry, or that the very use of such is idolatry. For example, he said, no one who has, with any degree of intelligent sympathy, watched the practice of idolatry in its more earnest form, as for example, in India, can have failed to recognize the zeal, the real help, which it seems to bring to many of those who made use of it. He, however, quotes with approval three informants whose words are illuminating on the subject. One very unintelligent Hindu whom I met in India showed me his idols and told me they were not images of his gods, but the very gods themselves. Another rather higher in intellectual scale said to me when I asked him about the image of Shiva, which he was worshiping, the image is not Shiva. Shiva is in heaven, but I want to worship Shiva. So I make a picture or image as like him in appearance as I can. And then I pray to Shiva in front of it because it helps me to pray. By a third Hindu, the one a learned Bengali Brahmin who gave me a long dissertation on the religion of his country, the subjective aspect of the cult and its retention, explicitity for the sake of its psychological effects was clearly recognized and emphasized. The idol, he said, is useful in adding visualization and concentration. It is a sensuous symbol, just as the word God is, but are symbols, one tangible and visible, the other audible, and both are helpful to our finite minds in standing for the infinite. The man who worships before an idol in effect prays, "O God, come and dwell in this image before me." For the moment that I may worship thee here concretely. It is important to note that when Pratt is reporting about his second informant, he speaks of the image of Shiva, which he was worshiping, and the part of the reply which says, "I pray to Shiva in front of it, the image." The same significant note is struck in the clause, "the man who worships before an idol." The important difference here is whether the worshiper is actually worshiping an idol or is worshiping before an idol. And here is a word of difference. A.C. Bouquet emphasizes the difference when he says, "Yet as often as not, the personality is unified around a dominant interest which is purely local. The prophet is inclined to call such a restricted interest an idol in the sense of being an inherent God or no God, but an idol, strictly speaking, is an eidolon or image and symbol, and whether reality is hard to describe such a symbol, whether mental, verbal, or physical, may be a justifiable into concentration, provided that the mind is not content to settle on it, but to see through it and beyond it, and to reckon it as at best inadequate. The major question remains to be answered. However, is the word idolatry appropriate in describing a whole religion? Any religion, is it appropriate with particular reference to religion in Africa? From the etymology of the word, eidolon does not mean originally what is false, although it has acquired this meaning with the progress of time, in consequence of the current derogatory and contemptuous nuance of the word. Idol should not be used for any emblem of religion or any called object, which is only a representation or symbol of the being to whom worship is offered. Such an object worship not an end in itself, but a means to an end. As its function is symbolic, it has a meaning beyond itself. Oludumare, God, and Yahweh belief, I have discussed the matter of symbolic representation as something. The main purpose of such a symbol is to aid man's perception, concentration, and to be a constant reminder of the divine presence. This has been long in the history of religion. Thus, a religion is not necessarily idolatry simply because it uses material representation of the cult object, and one is here in full sympathy with Maria in his outburst. Would that it were in my power to banish once for all from the pages of anthropology the pernicious fallacy that in primitive or in any other form of religion, the use of material symbols is bound to imply a materialistic outlook, and yet there is a sense in which symbols of any kind or material representation do constitute a grave danger to religion. Any religion, man's mind, in its weakness, especially where it is exploited by priestcraft, very easily ignores the delicate line of demarcation between the reality represented and what is primarily only a symbol. There has, of course, been a grave risk attending the use of images and symbols in worship. What is designed to be a means to an end could easily become an end in itself. We know that. We know too well how these ailerons can become heavy weights tied to the reins of the soul, thus making earthbound a thing meant for heaven. This is where idolatry comes in, for it is quite possible and does happen that men can become fools who actually bow down to word and a tongue. This is a sin which, in its crude or refined form, constantly besets religion at every step of its development. It is in the light of this that we should understand why the Old Testament prophets call idols vanity or non-entity, and roundly condemned idolatry, specifically with reference to African religion, African traditional religion. The word idolatry does not apply technically, as also the word idol in its popular connotation does not apply unreservedly to a cult object. Edward B. Taylor has a glimpse of the truth as he says, the idols are not, as Bozeman thinks, deputies of all the gods, but merely objects in which the God loves to place himself, and which at the same time, display him insensible present to his to his adorers. The God is also by no means bound fast to his dwelling in the image. He goes out and or rather is present in it sometimes with more and sometimes with less intensity. This is pure. This is put better and is erroneous notions and exaggerations corrected by P.A. Talbot when he says with reference to the religion of southern Nigeria. Their rough idols are never believed actually to represent the bodies of the gods. They are even beyond the stage in which the divinities were thought to fly to their images when their help was implored. The fact about the use of material emblems is that to Africans the material has no meaning apart from the spiritual. It is the spiritual that informs the material and gives it whatever quality and meaning it has. The material, therefore, can only be, at least technically, a symbol. It is the divine entity that is represented by the material object to whom worship is rendered. The material symbol cannot away become destroyed, be carried away, and he replaced, but not so far. The divine being symbols may change, deity or his ministers remain. To call African traditional religion idolatry is to be grossly unfair to it and to do violence to its essence. Nevertheless, there is the constant tendency towards idolatry in it, especially in consequence of its inherent weakness as almost entirely a priestly affair. We're going to stop right there. And we just got through reading from chapter 4, the nature of African traditional religion, errors of terminology. And we've been reading from the book titled African Traditional Religion, a Definition, written by Dr. E. Beloja Adawu. Okay. We're going to continue our reading. We're going to read from the book titled African Religions and Philosophy, written by Dr. John S. M.B. And we read from chapter 15, Specialists, Medicine Men, Rainmakers, Kings, and Priests. Kings, queens, and rulers. As this is a big subject with a considerable amount of literature, we shall content ourselves with a few observations. The personages in this category are unlike the other specialists, like medicine men, rainmakers, diviners, and priests. It is by virtue of their office that they hold a special place in African life and concepts. It needs to be borne in mind, however, that not all African people have had traditional rulers in forms of kings, queens, or chiefs. When these rulers are found, they are not simply political heads, they are the mystical and religious heads, the divine symbol of their people's health and welfare. The individuals as such may not have outstanding talents or abilities, but their office is the link between human rule and spiritual government. They are therefore divine or sacred rulers, the shadow or reflection of God's rule in the universe. People regard them as God's earthly viceroys. They give them highly elevated positions and titles such as Savior, Protector, Child of God, Chief of the Divinities, Lord of Earth, in life. People think that they can do what they want, have control over rain, and link them with God as divine incarnation or as originally coming from heaven. They regard their office as having been instituted by God in the Zamana period. Myths surround the origins and person of the kings, as do also all kinds of taboos, superstitions, prohibitions, and ideas. Rulers are, therefore, not ordinary men and women. They occupy a special office and symbolize the link between God and man. This sacred position of African rulers is shown in many ways. Some rulers must not be seen in ordinary life. They wear a veil, taking meals alone. Shuluk, Baganda, and Shone. Their eating and sleeping may not be mentioned in some societies like Lunde and Yanwizi and Baganda. The king must not touch the ground with his feet and has either to be carried or walk on a special mat. Parts of the ruler's body like saliva, feces, hair, and nails are buried lest they should be seen by ordinary people or used in malicious ways against them. To protect and strengthen the position and investure of the king, various measures are taken, mainly in form of sacrifices of animals, subjects, and prisoners, the wearing and keeping of amulets, consulting divers, and rituals of slaying other rulers. In societies like the Baganda, Lunde, and Balude, parts of the dead ruler's body, jaw, skull, or genitals are preserved and used in ceremonies or for consultation by the reigning ruler. In many areas, the ruler takes part or leads in national ceremonies and may play the role of the priest, rainmaker, intermediary, diviner, or mediator between men and God. The Vidu, Shaluk, Shone, and Sukume. In any case, almost all the rulers have shrines, temples, sacred groves, personal priests, and diviners in or near their palace. The spirit of the departed king may also continue to play an active part in the national affairs of his people by being reincarnated, possessing the successor or recognized medium, and being consulted or having sacrifices and offerings given to it. The Zulu, Shilluk, Ashanti, Lunde, Enyamwezi, and others make sacrifices and offer prayers at the graves of departed kings. Often the graves are sacred places with servants, guards, and sometimes priests. And in some societies, they are a sanctuary. They are a sanctuary for animals and men so that none will be killed there. People consider kings to be holy, mainly in a ritual rather than spiritual sense, and they must therefore speak well of them, respect them, bow or kneel before them, let them have sexual rights over their wives, pay them taxes and dues, obey them, refrain from copying their clothes or coming into direct contact with them, and even render them acts of reverence and obedience. We'll stop right there. It's that obedience. No, that's obeisance. Oh, that's obeisance. We're gonna stop right there. And we read from chapter 15, specialists, medicine men, rainmakers, and kings and priests. And we read from the book titled African Religions and Philosophy. African Religions and Philosophy, written by Dr. John S. Mbidi. We're going to continue our reading. We're going to read from the book titled Concepts of God in Africa, written by Dr. John S. Mbidi. We're reading from part 4 titled God and Man. And reading number 19, worship, intermediaries, and other specialists. Animals and inanimate things. It is remarkable that in a continent so full of animals, both big and small, they do not seem to be regarded as intermediaries according to our sources. The only exception to this observation are few and unclear. The gander regards the wagtail as God's prime minister and as the mediator between him and his people. The, the Sidome, the Sidamo, the Sadamo consider the hyenas and serpents to be intermediary between God and the chief ritual expert. The Tugu put the python in an intermediate position between God and the departed. The Igbire believe that animals have spirits who, together with human spirits, act as the intermediaries through whom people approach and reach God. There is no mention in our source of any inanimate objects being regarded as intermediaries, where some natural phenomena or objects are personified or thought to be inhabited by spiritual beings. It is possible that people may address their prayers to them. In such cases, the prayers are addressed to the divinity or spirit and not to the object of phenomenon as such. The El Guillo are said to regard the sun as the intermediary which forwards their prayers to God. It is possible that the sun is either personified or thought to be inhabited by a spiritual being. One writer said that among the Nanda, there are three types of intermediary: spiritual beings, living beings, and material objects. He does not give us further information on the subject. Until more knowledge, excuse me, until more knowledge comes to light, we may conclude that African people do not regard either animals or inanimate objects as intermediary between God and men. They seem to have a sufficient number of other intermediaries in the persons of the priests, rainmakers, elders, diviners, medicine men, kings, chiefs, and the living dead. I'm gonna stop right there. And we've been reading from part 4, titled God and Man. And we've been reading from number 19, Worship, Intermediaries, and Other Specimens. Been reading from the book titled Concepts of God in Africa, written by Dr. John S. and B. Now we're going to continue. Before we end today's video, we're going to go to our languages. You know, we've been talking about the core people and the sand people. They got YouTube videos and things of this nature. We can study the language. All right. Okay. We're gonna go over to this video right quick. The people who live in Namibia, you know, they're some of the core people. And like I say, they got these videos, easy languages. Like I said, this to help you learn how to, with your learn how to speak the core, quick. Go to easy languages. Easy languages is one place you can go. Now, as you know, there are many videos with the sand who live in the Kalahari Desert. So, like I said, for everybody there are many videos with the sand people on video. We're gonna move on. Oh, gotta cut it out. Now, like we said, like I showed you yesterday, I found one place where you can get a good start on your learning how to speak Mandingo. Mandingo. And you go to let me see, okay, type about Mansata, MANSATA dot wiki foundry. It's spelled wiki WIKI foundry FOUNDRY.com. Learn to speak Mandingo. Uh, how are you? I be in Yandi. Thank you. Abaraki. Abaraka. Greetings. Say good morning. Asemo. Good day to you. Tao Yi. Dayel. You are well. Anambiare. Thank you. Abaraka. So like I said, everybody can go to Wicked Foundry, massacre.wickedfoundry.com and for Mandingo. And let's go over to Bambare. Now you know Bambare is on Learn or www.101languages.net. Bambare. Hello. No, it don't matter what time of day. Anasi. How are you? Are you well? To one person. Okay, Kenny Way. How are you? Okay, Kenny. Fine, thank you. Kenny, Toroti, Toroti, Kotitana. What is your name? Atogo. Thank you. Anisi. You're welcome. Masiti. Yes. Awo. No. Aya. Excuse me. Ayi. Hakitu. I'm sorry. Ayafa. Ime. Goodbye. Intari. We're going to stop on the Bambare right there. So like I say for everybody, let's listen, go to www.101languages.net. Bambare. Let's go over to our coast. You know, our languages. Ourlanguages.org. Let's go here. Okay. Now, the good thing about this is they got the audible, you know, the audio, got the little thing on. So, Molo, say hi, and Coach Molo, what is your name? Listen. Do you hear that? Oh, you probably can hear it. Nice to meet you. How are you? Good Johnny. I'm good, thanks. In the Billy, the Kosa, the Kosa. And you, and Johnny Winner. Now let's go over here to this ilanguages.net post. Let's go over here to learn one-on-one. And also the good thing about also on learn one-on-one, they got the same thing. They got the audible. Where you go? Oh, let's see here. Right now I'm over here on Coast Adjectives. Go to the adjective on learn one-on-one. I'm on the adjective. Just say hi. Molo. How are you? I'm Johnny. I'm good, thank you. In the Billy Coast. And you? I'm Johnny Wayne. What is your name? I'm Bonnie. Agame Leko. But nice to meet you. You could the Bonnie now. So like I said, for everybody, you know, I think that's a good thing. You can hear it, you know, on ilanguages.org, COSA, and on learn101.org, COSA. I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to end today's video. Again, my name is Eric Johnson, Eric D. Johnson, also known as BrightShine, live right here in the city of Memphis, in the state of Tennessee and County Sheriff. Thank all my fans, my support for your continued encouragement and support. I'm continuing to work on my entertainment, my music interest. Until my next video, take care of yourself with each and every one of your very best. back home and watch a snake video. Baboom, baboom, I'm gone. Anaconda style chain.